Welcome to the Global Gaming Business Podcast, the industry's first and longest running podcast, now in our 19th year. We're in the Scarlet Pearl Casino in D'Iberville, Mississippi, and I'm here with the GM of the property, LuAnn Pappas. LuAnn, great to see you. What a beautiful property this is.
Thank you. Good to see you too.
And you've done so much good work down here for this property. You really brought it into prominence. Explain what it was like when you first got here.
Well, when I first got here, I was in a hard hat on an outside elevator. It was under construction when I came down to see it after the family told me they were building in Mississippi, which
Right.
intrigued me because I had been here after Katrina
Sure.
to help reopen the Grand. And then, as you know, lived in New Orleans, lived here, went back to Atlantic City, and then ultimately took this job.
Right.
So it was under construction when I first saw it.
Okay, great. So you've had a lot of experience in the industry, mostly with Caesars and Harrah's Entertainment. What's it like to come to a property where there's one family owns it, and you don't have all that corporate overhead overseeing
Well, it's
everything?
actually 40 years next year in
Wow,
this business,
yeah.
so I hate dating myself, but I always tell people I started when I was a teenager. It's been an amazing experience.
Sure.
As you know, I've worked for Caesars 30 years.
Yeah.
Started in the gift shop on grave shift. This has been a big change and a welcome change,
Sure.
and very, very different.
Yeah.
Because it is a single family owned casino, the only one, their first venture into the casino business, and it's just been an unbelievable ride ever since.
Right. And you've done such a great job with this property, but what made you decide to come here?
Well, I think, as you know, Caesars became bigger and bigger
Right.
in the acquisitions and the mergers, and I had a heart attack in September of
Right.
2014 at Caesars at
Yes.
my desk. And I started to rethink
Yeah.
what I was going to do with my life and where I ultimately
Sure.
wanted to be. And because I had put so much of, I call it sweat equity, into what I did, I really knew that I wasn't going to get to the ultimate position I
Sure.
had worked for unless I left.
Of course, right. So you had no qualms about coming here then?
No, because I had lived in Biloxi and I loved it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a great
I
town.
love the South.
Great area to live in, that's for sure. So, so you had to develop a corporate culture here because it was a brand new property. What did you bring from Caesars, and what did you kind of institute on your own?
Well, it's actually the opposite. We didn't want a corporate culture.
Okay.
We wanted to really hit home that it was a family-owned business, that we care about you, we care about the community, and we care about our customers. So we really have not done many things the traditional way.
Okay.
We opened up saying we have three missions: cleanly, friendly, and safe. What we do for you, the associates, what we do for our customers, and most importantly, what we do for the community. So when you say, what did I bring from corporate or Caesars, it really was the original Harrah's days,
Sure,
when it
that's
was
right, yeah.
Phil Satry,
Right.
Mike Rose, and 7 properties.
Right,
And
right.
remember how wonderful Phil
Absolutely,
Satry was.
Yeah, absolutely. Phil's a great guy.
So it was about the community and the associates.
Yeah, no question about it. So, you're the only casino here in D'Iberville, so I guess you were welcomed with open arms.
Yes, we were.
Yeah.
We still are.
Yeah, and the mayor and the city council, they're all
They're absolutely wonderful. We partner on many community events, as well as, obviously discussions about master plans and what the future will look like for D'Iberville
Right.
and this property.
sure, absolutely. So you've got a beautiful hotel here. It stands up to anything right along the coast down there, or anything really in a lot of the other regional destinations. Explain some of the amenities you have here.
Well, all of the rooms have water views, and we filmed a John Travolta movie here, and the producer was doing an interview, and he's been everywhere in the world,
Sure.
including Dubai, and he said this is one of the best properties he's ever seen. But again, ours is about bright, which was a shock for me.
Yes.
To walk into something that was all sun.
Right.
Where I came
Sure.
from, everything was dark.
That'd be dark.
Dark.
Yeah, no clouds.
We have windows everywhere, and
Yeah.
it's very bright and airy. But again, this property continues to evolve. We have probably redone everything, and we'll only be open 9 years in December.
Yeah.
And this room is relatively new. We built this during the pandemic, and the high limit gaming room during the pandemic. We were the only people to continue to
Sure.
move along during that horrible
Yeah, well,
time.
let's talk about that time, because it was a very difficult time, but you kept everybody mostly employed, and you were one of the first properties to reopen, correct?
Well, we kept a lot of people employed
Right.
longer than most, paid them longer than most. But you may recall, we also had the controversy, which turned out to be the best thing we ever did,
Right.
which was a vaccine mandate.
Right.
If you wanted to come back to work, you had to be vaccinated. You know, obviously, I'm up in age and not the healthiest person. Mr. Bob, same thing. And we just felt that's what we needed to do because Mississippi was one of the worst states
Right.
for COVID, for
Sure.
the ability to handle people. But in any event, we did very well through COVID. We also, you know, the state struggled with the unemployment, especially Mississippi. They
Sure.
couldn't stay on top of it. They couldn't answer the calls. And one night I was talking to one of the politicians over the phone, and
Yeah.
I said, I don't get this. Everyone's out of work. There's so many people that could go back to work.
Right.
And he said, a lot of people don't want to. I said, well, how about we take all of your calls because we have people that need things to do
Sure.
and we'll pay them.
Right.
So we took the unemployment calls for probably 8 weeks
Wow.
and helped process thousands and thousands of
Yeah.
applicants.
Yeah. And then, again, you were one of the first properties to reopen, right?
We all pretty much, well, that is true, because the larger corporations delayed their
Right,
opening,
right.
and for obvious reasons.
Sure.
You know, obviously, we're more nimble being one property, and we don't have to do
Right.
across the country.
Right. So, you have some really great restaurants here. Explain some, what
We
they
do.
are.
We have Chopsticks, which is our Asian noodle bar. It's open pretty much round the clock, and it's become a pretty big staple amongst the community and the
Right.
local people. We have our gourmet restaurant, which is Scarlet Steak and Seafood. We have the 24-hour cafe that we also just redid, finished after COVID. We have a 24-hour brick oven pizza place, and obviously the coffee shop where we do our own bakery,
Sure.
our own pastries, our own breads.
So explain how well, let's talk about the southern Mississippi market first. I mean, again, right after COVID, it was tough to open, but a lot of people came back because they just wanted to be entertained after being inside for so long. But what is your market in terms of where your players come from? Do you have a radius where, 80% of your
Very
players
different
come
than what I was used to, because even when I worked here in Mississippi before, for Harrah's, it was more regional, national.
Right.
We are probably 80% local.
from? Okay,
And customers come on average 14 times a month, predominantly female.
Right.
And obviously predominantly slots.
sure.
Now, the big operators like Caesars and MGM, meaning the Beau Rivage, do fly in a pretty
Right.
significant amount of charter planes. So obviously we do get customers that visit from other markets, and
Sure.
we see that when we pull the database. But
Right.
I'm sure it's a result of the
Right.
the planes that are coming in for the other properties.
Right, but you're very much of a local market then, right?
Very much.
Especially D'Iberville, I guess a lot of the people.
D'Iberville, Biloxi, yes,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
typical communities along the Gulf Coast.
Right. Well, it's easier to get here too.
Sure is, right off the interstate.
Yeah, exactly. And I drove down 90 yesterday, and it took me forever. So
90 does, but it's a
Yeah.
beautiful ride.
Yeah, it is a gorgeous ride. That's why I did it. So, how did it take you? How long did it take to get adjusted to that kind of market, since you weren't really used to it?
Well, remember when we opened without a database. We
Right.
might be the only casino I know in the country
Yeah.
that started with nothing. So
Zero,
it was a
right.
struggle. You know, we sit here today and we look back and we say, geez, there were times where we didn't think we were going to make it. So the first 2 years were rough, and certainly getting used to the dynamics of marketing to
Right.
an ultra-high frequent local customer.
Yeah.
It puts a lot of stress on you. Your restaurant's changing the menu constantly
Sure.
because you don't want people to get bored.
Sure. So one of the big marketing ploys these days is tier matching. Do you do that?
No, we do not.
Okay, well, that shows you've got a strong operation here, that's for sure. So, I was here, the last time I was here, you just opened your sports book, and great looking sports book. How did that work out for you?
It's actually one of the best looking ones I think I've seen in a long, long time. It worked out very well. Understand still Mississippi struggling because of mobile betting.
Right.
We didn't get the full,
Right.
didn't pass again.
Sure.
Which I candidly admit is very frustrating. We were put on the map by Mattress Mac.
Right.
You know, we were the
Yes.
only ones to take that $3.5 million
Yeah.
bet when no one else would take it,
Right.
including the largest people on the block. But it turned out, now if you may recall, that went every game, every inning, down to the wire.
Right, yes.
Had Mattress Mac won that bet, we would have lost $14 million.
Right. Yeah.
But, you know, the owners we're in the gambling business, we'll take all action, any action, anytime. And it was one of the very best things we did. We received a tremendous amount of not only national but international coverage for that and COVID.
Sure. That's almost like the Jack Binion philosophy, I guess, huh?
Mr. Bob reminds me a lot of Jack Binion.
Yeah, okay.
Make it right for the gambler.
Yeah.
Mr. Bob himself has, been a loyal customer of Harris for over 40 years.
Really?
Still is.
So, obviously, you're in favor of mobile sports betting. How would you like to see that introduced in Mississippi? Would you partner with the big companies like DraftKings and FanDuel?
We did. We were partners with DraftKings.
Yeah.
DraftKings now is partnered with obviously someone else.
Right.
We're not the biggest one on the block, and that's okay as long as we have. Our position is if it's out there and it's available, it should be available in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah.
Whether we do well in that category or not, we just are a big proponent of anything that makes it different and better and bigger for the customer.
Right, absolutely. So what about some of the challenges here and the opportunities in this part of the state right now? Right now I know the season here is mostly the summer season, and
Actually, no.
No, really?
No, it typically is the first quarter is the best quarter,
Okay.
which is the opposite of the other
Yes.
markets I've worked in. But remember, you hit with Mardi Gras,
Right.
President's Weekend,
Oh, yeah,
Valentine's
right.
Day. Up north, you always had snowstorms, so
Yeah, that's right.
you
Right.
suffered. Here, we don't have to
Okay,
worry about
yeah.
that. We have hurricane
Right,
season.
yes.
But no, the first quarter is the best quarter, and actually, the seasons here, all 4 quarters are pretty even, except that pop you do get in the first quarter.
Yeah, and I guess I forgot about Mardi Gras. Yes, that's
Big thing here.
I've
Big.
been here a few times. That I understand
Big.
that's really big for sure. Well, what's your goal for this property over the next few years?
Well, the goal is going to pretty much remain the same. We've been very successful in sticking with our goal, and that's to make sure that the associates are as paid better than anyone else
Right.
and the most satisfied. We survey them quite frequently to ensure that we are staying true to our mission. And again, to continue to expand, we have done the design for an additional hotel tower. We are a small boutique hotel, only 300 hotel rooms. However, we were looking to build before the pandemic another 250 hotel rooms.
Okay.
So we continue to evaluate when's the right time to do
Sure.
that. I think you're familiar, COVID
Sure. Yeah.
rocked everyone's
Yeah,
world in
no
terms of
question.
cost and timing of construction.
And your occupancy rate is pretty decent then?
99% year round.
Well,
It's one of the challenges we have,
okay, yeah, just getting the right people in
which
there, I guess.
also makes you struggle with, drawing from further out.
Right.
Because the hotel's so small
right.
and it's
Yeah.
always close to 100%.
Yeah, right. Well, LuAnn, you've done a great job with this property, and I'm really glad we could sit down and get back together again. We've known each other for a lot of years here.
A lot of years.
Been too long that we've seen each other, though.
Yes,
So,
and it's great to see you.
yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks very much, and good luck in the future.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Don't miss a single episode of the GGB podcast. Subscribe on Amazon, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts today. So we'll see you next time on the GGB podcast.